Hello everyone, this is Thomas Pepin, NHL Talk. I'm Thomas Pepin, and let's talk about the NHL. First I should say sorry for missing yesterday. Wasn't feeling well, and I thought it would be best to take a day off, so I did. But back again today, and so we're continuing the NHL expansion series, where we take a look at failed franchises in potential new markets to see if they could conceivably succeed in the next NHL expansion. And so today we're continuing the portion looking at new markets, or in this case it's expansion of a current market, which would be to have a second team in Vancouver or in Victoria, British Columbia, which is very close to Vancouver. So we're going to have a look to see if it makes sense, and let's get to it. So just a sec to pull things up. All right, so as always, the start is gathering data so that we can analyze the market as an option. And so, so it'll take a little bit to work on that. And so previously, so with Montreal, what we did is because of the way that it's kind of put together geographically, there's not really a way to separate out two teams in Montreal. They'd basically be in the same sort of area. So we essentially just took the market and divided it by two. In the case of Vancouver, we kind of have two options, but we'll take a look first at Vancouver as a city, and then Victoria is a bit more separate, and so that might make it a better option, but we'll have a look here. So already it actually looks reasonably, or it looks reasonable for a team to be in a separate part of the region. So there's Burnaby, Richmond, Surrey, even Abbotsford's a reasonable distance. So it's pretty spread out, which makes it more possible that two teams could be there. And Victoria is a bit far, so and kind of by itself. I know it has an airport, but I don't really like where it's situated. So let's see with population basis to help us narrow down this question. Okay, so Vancouver. What do they include in the metropolitan area? Do they have... So they do include everything there. Okay. So you can see on the little map there, and then on the bigger map. And then so if you take a look at the density, basically you'd want, I mean, really it could be a bunch of the different options, but I kind of like the idea of either, actually it's probably better to be away from the center, so something like, I'll move this over here. So Burnaby kind of makes sense. New Westminster is a possibility too. Yeah, so there's a few options. I'd want to have it slightly separate just to make it just more geographically split up, so then you're not competing in the directly in the same area. And because of the population for Victoria, I don't think it makes sense, because 400,000 people, the what's the smallest market? Is it Winnipeg? So 800,000 for Winnipeg, and then I don't think in the States anywhere is smaller than that. Yeah, I'm nearly certain. So yeah, it really doesn't make sense to have it in Victoria, Tucson. Yeah. I mean, I could be forgetting about one of the cities, but I'm nearly certain all of them are in big cities, so, or bigger cities than Victoria at least. So I think already that tells you no for Victoria, both because of where it's located, as we saw on the map here. So it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. You can get to it, but it's all from ferries, it looks like, actually. And then otherwise it would be a flight. So yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever. Even though the population's reasonable to have a team in Victoria. So it's going to have to be Vancouver. And then the question is, where in Vancouver? And where is New Westminster? So I think it's on the opposite side, is it not? Or is it? No, it is on the same side. So that actually makes sense. So somewhere Burnaby Way, New Westminster, something like that, Surrey. It makes sense to have it around there. Whether or not it's actually doable, that's another question. But in terms of, you'd want it to be somewhere where the population density is higher, something accessible. So it kind of makes sense to be there on the same land portion as Vancouver, the city. So that's what I'd say. But essentially it's all the same anyways, because it's part of the same metropolitan area. So on that note, then, that answers the question. Is we once again take the population and we just divide it by 2. So the problem now already is we're starting to get a bit small. So and then next, hockey registration, we're grabbing BC Hockey. Now, once again, we're going to reverse engineer this. Take the full province's population and then, or we'll divide the registrations into the full province's population to get an approximate rate that would be, you could estimate it would be the same across the entire province. And then we take the population and multiply it by that rate. And out of interest, are there any other ones in BC? Pacific Coliseum, is that, must be the old Vancouver arena? Okay, so they were there until 95. So what you could do is make this a temporary home and then build a new one eventually. What is the location? There it is. And then we want Canucks. Nope. So it's a bit close, a bit too close, you could say, but again, it probably would be a temporary home anyways, but Still, yeah, I mean, that's not so bad. It is very close, but it's not, literally side by side. So, again, as a temporary home, it looks like an option. And then if we use this as the capacity for now, now to estimate the attendance. Okay, now how do we do this? We've got See, this is tough. Because I don't want to just say that it's going to be the same attendance as Vancouver, like the Vancouver Canucks, because two teams put in the same city just doesn't seem realistic. I could use Winnipeg's. Is there a place with two teams in the same city? Not really. Is there? I mean, the closest thing we have is Anaheim, LA, I guess. So maybe what we could do is take Anaheim as a percentage of LA's worst attendance, multiply that by the Vancouver attendance in order to get the approximate for a second team. I mean, it's kind of the best thing I can think of at the moment, so that's what we'll do. So actually, first we'll get those attendance numbers here. So they've been sold out for a long time. We'll go back to their worst performance. So that's 14,641. So 14,641. And then I guess we'll go with the best within that time frame. When did they move to their new rink? So it looks like 95, I guess. So let's go with the safest bet is when was the lockout? Yeah, so we'll go with 17712. So we're just trying to go with some sort of reasonable worst case scenario ish, as close as we can get to it. I mean, not like we're kind of estimating, but it's as good as we can do. And then next we take the league stats. So that's 99, 2000. That divided by 1148. And then we're going to use 0102. Oops. Okay, and then what was it? So we're doing equals this times the minimum for Anaheim divided by the minimum for LA. It looks like that's a relatively reasonable estimate. Whether or not it's right, I mean, that's a different story, but oops. So that's right, that's right. So we can get rid of this. So I mean, it's hard to say if it's going to be accurate, but again, we're just doing an estimation. We can use the same logic to guesstimate the... Sorry, one sec. The valuation of the team. So we want this. Come on. Ducks. So we'll do 620 divided by 1025 times the Canucks value. That seems quite low. Is that the lowest, or would it be the lowest? No, it's not the lowest, so then maybe that might be right anyways. Man, it seems like it's not too, again, completely estimating, but not too far outside of what is probably the case. Oops. Just give me a sec to make sure the cells are working correctly. Okay, so I think that's it. So it took less time than I expected. But I think it makes sense. So again, just to recap, and then as we go through, I'll explain everything. So with population, we took the Greater Vancouver area. Is that what they call it? Greater Vancouver or Metro Vancouver. So we took the total population of the region, divided it by 2. Oh, wait. No, we didn't. We forgot to do the divided by 2. Now it's divided by 2. Hockey registration, we took the registration divided by the total population of British Columbia, the province, used that rate, and then multiplied it by the region's population to get the hockey registration. Minimum attendance, we took the difference between the Anaheim Ducks, or I guess the ratio of Anaheim Ducks minimum to LA minimum, and multiplied it by Vancouver's minimum from back in 99, 2000, I think it was. And then we used the same ratio to do the maximum. And that was 102 or something like that. And capacity, we used the old Vancouver Canucks Arena as a temporary home for a little while. And then so now just to talk about the numbers here. So when it comes to population, it's more than, so if you take a look at the Winnipeg one, we use the full province of Manitoba. So it's actually, in theory, a better population base than Winnipeg, even with 2 teams, because Winnipeg, I think, was 800,000 we saw there over here. So 834,678. So in theory, it's a better population base for a team than Winnipeg. We know Winnipeg's kind of the minimum of a sustainable team. The other thing, actually, which is a good point, is to compare it to Ottawa. So it's slightly less than Ottawa, and we know that Ottawa's should be a safe market, probably more so than Winnipeg. And it's slightly less than Ottawa, but it's close. So I'd say from a population-based standpoint, it's still slightly on the weaker side. It's reasonable, but for Canadian markets, you kind of want to have a bigger population base to ensure that the rink is always full, because it's probably one of the more important revenue drivers versus in the States where they can get more corporate money in and stuff. So it's kind of on the low end a bit, I'd say teetering on too low, but it's better than Winnipeg, so it should still in theory be sustainable. Another good way to compare is the registration. So it is, what's it comparable to? Well, it seems like it's better than Quebec City, so it would probably be a better option than Quebec City. And Quebec's population base is smaller. But it's one team in Quebec versus two teams in Vancouver, so there's a bit of a difference. I think by having one team, you're relatively stronger than, or comparatively stronger than a market with two teams, I'd argue. But in any case, it's not as good as Montreal, clearly, because Montreal has a greater population. Okay, let's pull it up with some US ones. Actually, we can use this. So 14,000 is about the same. Well, it's about the same as Colorado, and Colorado is sustainable, and that's the entire state. And I'd say Colorado is pretty stable. I don't think it's of any great concern to disappear again. Similar to Ohio, and Ohio's stable. Again, we have to factor in that they have more corporate money, more local industry and stuff like that. So I'd argue still it's a lot stronger than a lot of the smaller US markets. So to estimate that the valuation is, what was it? We got 500 million. And then that would put it about the same as the Buffalo Sabres. That seems about right, to be honest. So based on the registration, if it's comparable to like a Colorado, and Colorado is stable, it should be fine. So both from the population and registration standpoints, two things kind of doing the same thing, looking at potential fan base. So it looks reasonably sustainable. The minimum attendance, I think the numbers are a bit misleading because we're using stuff from 20 years ago in the same market, whereas Vancouver's been stable and at capacity for the recent history. So basically since that point, they've been basically filled to capacity every single season. So that indicates that there's some room for growth in the market. The concern is that there's room, but not enough room. So that's where on the low end here of the estimation. Again, we're taking Anaheim's minimum attendance as a percentage of LA, multiplying that by the worst case scenario in Vancouver back 20 years ago. And that's where we get about 11,000 attendance. And that's low, but that's about the same as Winnipeg. So on the worst case scenario, it's probably going to be as stable as Winnipeg. You could say it's about the same as Anaheim too. Any other ones that are close? Let's just see league attendance. 2018-19. What was the worst? So it's lower than the worst, but it seems like an underestimation of how much they would get. So worst case scenario, it's probably somewhere around the same as the worst team in the league, which seems unlikely. And then best case scenario is probably league average, you could guess. And then on the maximum side, 13,000. That's is there anything else comparable? So it seems like like the market's similar strength to maybe Hartford, but that's an old bit of data too. Yeah, it's really tough to say in this case. So it's like right on the line of whether or not it's sustainable. So let's take a look at Ottawa's attendance history. So they had a big dip, and I mean, they're still doing okay. And I think I saw like estimations of the purchase were, what was it, 700 million or something like that. So I mean, that puts it right in the middle, and it's not that strong. I mean, it is strong for a chunk of the time, but as of late, not that strong for attendance. So, but Ottawa's perfectly fine and stable, it looks like. So if it's the same as Ottawa or the same as Winnipeg, it's probably fine. So registration as a percentage of the population is strong. Minimum attendance as a percentage of capacity is quite low. It would project to like the same as Hartford, Anaheim. So maybe on the low end, it's like an Anaheim. So it's like the worst. In the worst case scenario, the attendance would be similar to one of the worst in the league, which is pretty weak, I would say. And then, yeah, versus the league. What else? Is there anything else similar? Not really. So this one's tough. It's really tough to evaluate. Yeah, I think you've seen all the data. So I'll just talk about it now. So, one sec. Okay, so basically what I'd say is I'd put a second team in Vancouver as approximately the same strength as a team in Quebec City, maybe slightly better. Maybe similar to a Winnipeg Jets, similar to Hartford, but I'd say that Hartford's probably a better alternative. I don't know. No, it's probably about the same. Maybe like an Anaheim. And Anaheim's not that strong. So what was their valuation again? They're 24th. So, I mean, the population base is starting to get to the low end. So basically, it kind of lines up to somewhere, it seems, on the low end about Winnipeg level. On the high end, maybe like an Ottawa level. Somewhere in there, maybe even slightly better than Ottawa on the high end. What was Ottawa's population again? No, so it's going to be somewhere between basically Winnipeg and Ottawa, because Ottawa's population is better, and because there's only one team in Ottawa, I'd say the market's stronger than for that location than two teams in Vancouver. So yeah, I'd put it, like I said, somewhere between Winnipeg and Ottawa in terms of strength. Where was Ottawa before? So Ottawa was 28th ranked for valuation prior to this purchase. That's probably going to happen. So it would probably be something around the same there. So it's not a strong market, not the worst market, but it doesn't really seem like the best option or one of the best options for an expansion team, but it's not unreasonable. It's worth considering, basically. It probably would be further down the line, so we're at 32 teams. It might be towards the 36 point or something like that, if it would happen. So it's not bad, not good. Definitely not at the top of the list, and especially so not in Victoria, just because of the way it's where it's located geographically. It's just too separate, inaccessible by road and stuff. So it's just not a good market to use. So I think that best summarizes it. So it's not in the near future if it's going to happen, but it could happen. It's not that crazy to consider. So we'll leave it there. So if you like the stream, hit the like button, share with your friends, subscribe, turn on notifications. Otherwise, channel homepage has upcoming streams. Should be 3 p.m. Eastern daily, except for Sundays and in case I'm sick, like yesterday. But I'll try to let you know in the title of the stream. Yeah, and any comments, leave them in the comments. Suggestions, same thing. And tomorrow we're moving on to the last team of the series, or last location of the series, I believe. Yeah, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, we're going to talk about. And then I also decided I'm going to add on an extra stream at the end to summarize the whole series. Then this way I can actually kind of rank order them. It's probably going to be a really short stream, but I think it's good to summarize rather than just leave it as all as I went and all that stuff. So anyways, so yeah, once again, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys tomorrow.